Have you ever looked at a car and thought the engine bay was clearly a mistake? Because somewhere out there, an engineer took a hatchback the size of a garden shed, looked at a motor designed for something twice its weight, and said, "Yeah, that'll fit." Usually, it didn't fit. Usually, they made it fit anyway. Today, we're counting down 7 tiny cars with engines that had absolutely no business being in them. Some of these are homologation specials, hot hatches built to satisfy rulebooks, with road cars that were basically an afterthought. Some were built by factories, with proper budgets and wind tunnels. At least one of them was built because a group of Volkswagen engineers had a stand to fill at a car show and a 12-cylinder engine lying around. We're going from mildly unhinged to completely off the rails. And by number 1, you'll be wondering how anyone signed the paperwork. Let's start at number 7. Number 7 is the Daihatsu Sport GTI-R. And I want you to understand how small the engine is here, because this one wins the list backwards. The engine is not big. The engine is a 993 cubic centimeters 3-cylinder. That's a litre. That's the same displacement as a decent motorcycle, split 3 ways. Daihatsu launched the GTI-R in 1987, and they bolted an IHI turbocharger and intercooler onto that little triple and got 99 brake horsepower out of it. Now, 99 horsepower sounds like nothing today, but the car weighed around 780 kilos, and at the time, it was reportedly the most powerful production engine per litre you could buy from any manufacturer, full stop. Ferrari didn't have that number. Porsche didn't have that number. A Japanese company best known for building key cars and tiny pickup trucks did. The G100 Charade looked like a shoebox that had been left in the sun. 3 doors, flat sides, a grille the size of a letterbox, and inside you got seats that felt like they'd been trimmed in the same fabric as a 1980s office chair. It went from nothing to 60 in about 8 seconds, which doesn't sound wild until you're in one at full boost, with the whole car shaking like a washing machine on spin cycle. It's on the list because it set the template. Everything else here follows the same logic, just with more cylinders. Speaking of more cylinders, our next pick swapped Japanese precision for British desperation. Number 6 is the Talbot Sunbeam Lotus, and this is the one where a dying company gambled everything on a rally program. Chrysler Europe, which became Talbot, had a car called the Sunbeam. It was a rear-wheel drive hatchback built on a shortened Hillman Avenger floor pan, and in standard form, it was about as exciting as a wet Tuesday in Coventry. Then Des O'Dell, the competition's manager, decided the way out of the mess was motorsport. He needed an engine. Chrysler didn't have one worth using, so they went to Lotus, and Lotus handed over the 2.2-liter slant-4 16-valve, the Type 911 engine, fed by twin Delorto carburetors and making 150 brake horsepower in road trim. In a car that weighed roughly 960 kilos on a rear axle with leaf springs in Britain in 1979. The road cars all came in that black paint with the silver stripe down the flank, and the interior was mostly hard plastic and optimism. But it worked. Henri Toivonen took a Sunbeam Lotus to victory on the 1980 Lombard RAC Rally at 24 years old. At the time, the youngest man ever to win a world championship rally. Talbot took the manufacturer's title in 1981, and then the company collapsed anyway, which is the most British ending imaginable. Our next pick is from the other end of the world, and it was built for exactly one reason. Number 5 is the Nissan Pulsar GTI-R, the RNN14, and Nissan built it purely so they could go Group A rallying. Homologation rules said you had to sell 5,000 road cars. Nissan sold them, gritted their teeth, and got on with it. It's a homologation special in the purest sense. The road car exists only because the rulebook demanded it. What you got was the standard Pulsar hatchback, a car your neighbor might use for the school run, fitted with the SR20DET, a 2-liter turbocharged 4, making 227 brake horsepower, and Nissan's Atisa all-wheel drive system, borrowed from the Skyline family. The whole car weighed about 1,200 kilos. That's Golf GTI money in a package that could outdrag a contemporary 911 Carrera in a straight line. The giveaway is the bonnet. There's a scoop on it the size of a serving tray, feeding the top-mounted intercooler, and the car looks permanently surprised by its own existence. It had problems. That top-mount intercooler sat directly over a hot turbo, so in sustained hard use, it heat-soaked badly and the power fell away. Rally journalists at the time nicknamed the car Baby Godzilla, which was affectionate, and the rally program itself was a disappointment, which was not. Nissan never won a WRC round with it and pulled out of the championship at the end of 1992. The road cars, though, are now genuinely sought after, and clean ones are getting expensive. Our next pick is newer, faster, and made by people who really should know better. Number 4 is the Mercedes-AMG A45 S, and this one is here on pure engineering violence. Launched in 2019, it uses the M139, a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that produces 421 brake horsepower in S trim. That is the most powerful series production 4-cylinder engine in the world, and it has held that record since the day it launched. AMG turned the whole engine around 180 degrees compared to the old M133, putting the turbo and exhaust at the back against the firewall and the intake at the front. That gave them a shorter, straighter intake path and let them drop the whole unit lower in the car. The turbo runs up to 2.1 bar of boost, twin-scroll, roller bearing, and it spins to 169,000 revolutions per minute. Each engine is still built by one person on the one-man, one-engine principle with the signed plaque on top, which feels absurd on a hatchback you could theoretically use to collect a flat-pack wardrobe. 0 to 60 comes in about 3.9 seconds in a 5-door family car with cup holders. The thing is, the A45 fits its engine properly. Everything from here on gets much less sensible because our next pick has its engine in completely the wrong place. Number 3 is the Peugeot 205 Turbo 16, and this is one of the greatest cheats in motorsport history. Group B rules meant you had to build 200 road-going examples to homologate the car, the same homologation special logic as the Pulsar, but taken to a completely different extreme. So in 1984, Peugeot built 200 cars that looked to the untrained eye like a slightly puffed-up 205 GTI. Same silhouette, same doors, roughly, same badge on the nose. Underneath, it shared almost nothing with a normal 205. The engine, a 1.8-liter turbocharged 16-valve, sat behind the seats, mounted transversely, driving all 4 wheels. Jean Todt ran the program. The road cars made around 200 brake horsepower. The rally cars, in Evolution 2 spec, were reportedly making north of 500. To get at the engine, you lifted the entire rear section of the car forward, like a Ford RS 200 or a Lancia 37. Inside, the road car got grey trim, a Peugeot steering wheel, and not much else, because every one of the 200 was left-hand drive and painted the same shade of grey silver. Ari Vatanen and Timo Salonen took the 205 T16 to back-to-back world titles in 1985 and 1986, and then Group B was banned after the deaths of Henri Toivonen and Sergio Cresto at the Tour de Corse in May 1986. They were driving a Lancia Delta S4, and the crash that ended Group B ended in a fireball on the Col de Cuichy. Peugeot took the car to Dakar instead and won that too. 200 road cars exist. Good ones now trade well into 6 figures. Meanwhile, the Audi Quattro had already rewritten what 4-wheel drive could do in rallying, and the Lancia Delta S4 answered it with a supercharger and a turbo on the same engine. The 205 T16 sat right in the middle of that arms race, and it won. Our next pick used the exact same trick, mid-engine, hatchback body, but with 2 more cylinders and a bigger badge on the boot. Number 2 is the Renault Clio V6, and Renault genuinely put a 3-liter V6 where the back seats should be. This is not the first time Renault went mid-engine in a hot hatch. The Renault 5 Turbo did it in the early 80s. Engine behind the driver, rear-wheel drive, completely mad. And the Clio V6 is that same philosophy scaled up for a new century. The idea came from the Clio V6 Trophy Race Series, and the first road cars, the Phase 1, were built by Tom Walkinshaw Racing in Uddevalla, Sweden from 2001. The engine was the 3.0-litre PSA Renault V6, making 227 brake horsepower, mounted amidships and driving the rear wheels. Renault widened the body by about 10 centimeters, and the car ended up weighing around 1,400 kilos, which for a Clio is enormous. The Phase 1 had a reputation, and the reputation was that it would try to kill you. Short wheelbase, all the mass in the middle rear, and steering that reportedly went light exactly when you needed it not to. Journalists were fairly blunt about it at the time. So for the Phase 2 in 2003, Renault Sport took production in-house at Dieppe, lengthened the wheelbase by 23 millimeters, revised the suspension geometry, stiffened the shell, and raised power to 255 brake horsepower. It was a much better car, and still completely mad. 0 to 60 in around 5.8 seconds, and boot space measured in sandwiches. Look at one from behind, and you'll see the arches. They're the width of a small van, bolted to a car that started life as a super mini for people who needed to get to the shops. Which brings us to number 1, and this one never went on sale at all. Number 1 is the Volkswagen Golf GTI W12 650, and I need you to sit down for the specification. Volkswagen showed it at the Wörthersee GTI meet in Austria in 2007. It's a Mark V Golf, or at least the middle bit is. The rear seats and the boot are gone, and in their place sits a 6.0-litre twin-turbocharged W12 engine, the same basic architecture as the one in a Bentley Continental GT, turned sideways and driving the rear wheels. 650 brake horsepower, that's where the name comes from. Around 750 Newton-meters of torque. Volkswagen quoted 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.7 seconds and a top speed of 202 miles per hour from a Golf, with the 4-ringed GTI honeycomb grille still on the front. The bodywork was widened dramatically to cover it all, with huge intakes cut into the rear quarters to feed air to the engine, because a Golf's cooling system was never designed to deal with 12 cylinders sitting where a spare wheel used to live. The whole thing was finished in bright orange, and it sat about as low as a doorstop. Volkswagen built exactly one. They let a handful of journalists drive it, and by most accounts, it was terrifying in the way a shopping trolley with a jet engine strapped to it would be terrifying. It was never going to be sold. It exists because Volkswagen's engineers wanted to see if they could, which is the single best reason to build anything. So that's the list: a 1-litre Daihatsu that out-specced Ferrari on paper, a Lotus engine Talbot that won a world title for a company that no longer existed, and a Golf with a Bentley engine behind the driver's head. Here's what I want to know from you. What story about cars do you want me to cover next? Drop it in the comments, because I read them, and I do pick from them. And if you enjoyed this one, hit the like button and subscribe, because there's plenty more where this came from.